So what does
Sure.
that mean? Are you going to have every ballpark in the country put rubber on all the metal rails so that one person out of 50,000 who trips and cracks their head open is avoided? I mean, so like how much of a real problem are we really trying to solve here?
Hi, everyone, and thank you for coming back to another recording of Foul Ball Safety Now Talks. I'm Jordan Skop. I'm with Brianna Ludwig. We're getting towards the middle of May, and baseball season is well underway on the major league level, and some of the other leagues are starting up as well. So, we're excited to talk about how Foul Ball Safety Now began, and then get into some news, and then bring on our guest host. So basically, in 2019, seeing something very disturbing on morning television, I saw a child get hit by a line drive. And being a baseball fan, I was in situations where balls came at me prior, and just knowing that it was a question that it was always in my mind lingering about protocols and who's expecting what when it comes to protocols and information that's delivered effectively to fans going to games. And since that incident, I thought it was time to step up. And I made a gesture to the Mets and the Yankees very early on, probably a day or two later, saying, "Hey, why don't you do this and I'll pay for it?" And I think they looked at it as like, "Who's this guy?" and go away. And I could understand they don't need my cash, and they don't want to be told how to clean up their own house. But I guess I pulled back a day or two and realized that I wanted to get organized, and I reached out to a lawyer who I was familiar with, and I was introduced to somebody by the name of Brendan. And I said, "Brendan, who's an investigative reporter and works for a not-for-profit," he said, "I'd be happy to work with you part-time." And from there, we been going at it strong for about 7 years, and we've compiled so much from interviews with victims and interviews with many, many baseball players who hadn't even thought about the issue for a while because many of them were out of the game, professional baseball players that may have owned schools or academies or private instructors. And when you reach out to hundreds, it's a numbers game. You do get responses. And we've interviewed more than 30 baseball players. Most of them did have professional baseball on their resume. And it was very interesting how they looked at the issue when they were in the middle of the game. Some of them were naysayers about the issue, but within a few minutes, when we were able to demonstrate that these children were smoked by foul balls, they then all of a sudden either change their stubbornness to receptiveness. And, it's an opportunity to start a conversation. That's what we do. We've also interviewed many victims. Unfortunately, 20 victims and family members have been part of our introduction. We've been meeting people, they've been finding us, or I've been finding them. So they've been introduced to Foul Ball Safety Now, and they've also formally interviewed with us. A gentleman who's been part of 7 of my virtual press conference experiences, Erwin Goldblum. His wife was unfortunately hit at the Dodger game in 2018, and she died a few days later. She was up in the Loge level. It actually took the Dodgers a year after Linda was hit and died a few days later for them to raise the nets vertically behind home plate. It was weird that it was in August of 2018. They didn't raise the nets till 2019, and it wasn't till Labor Day. So obviously, the month of September and October, people that were sitting in that seat may have not even known, and I forgot to mention it wasn't even reported till 2019. So yes, they did not know that somebody may have been hurt or died in the particular seat that they're sitting in. And even when it was announced in 2019, the only way the general public learned about it was Willie Weinbaum, who attended one of my virtual press conferences. He works with ESPN. He wrote an article about casualties in professional baseball, and Linda Goldblum wasn't on the list. And Jana Brody, the daughter, actually found this report and called him right away. And, yeah, all the local media started coming over to their house in maybe the late winter or early spring 2019 to talk to them about the feeling of this whole situation. And so then maybe it was reported locally in LA, but why was it August 2018 when she was struck, and why wasn't the Nets up till Labor Day 2019? Even the people who sat in those sections or that seat, April, May, June, July, and August, they may have not seen that news report. And what kind of steps did the Dodgers take to notify the fans, if any? But, Irwin's been terrific. He's in his 90s. He's a wrestling coach. Haven't spoke with him in a couple of years. I hope he's doing well. I did something in Arizona a little over a month ago in spring training in Arizona in Glendale. I got a life-size cutout of Shohei Ohtani in a vulnerable position of feeling like he may have just hurt someone. He put his hand over his head. He experienced a cringeworthy moment when he hit a line drive down the line during the World Series, and he thought maybe he made contact with a human being. So we have this image of him putting his hand over his head, like, yikes, I almost hurt someone or maybe hurt someone. So I asked the lawyer who I work with, can I use this image? We did. He said yes, and we set up this life-size, almost life-size cutout of Shohei Ohtani in this cringeworthy pose, and we set it up in an outdoor mall, and people who go to Glendale, Arizona in March are there to watch the Dodgers in spring training, and when they're not playing their games, they may be walking around the outdoor mall, so there you go. And we got a lot of people to go look at that and take pictures with it and visit the website. So that's been pretty cool. Yeah, just, other things, been to court in Illinois. I think I'd mentioned I rented out those airplanes to make some sounds and noises over ballparks and rain on their parade of, Wholesome and Apple Pie, like over Field of Dreams games and All-Star games. When I would say something like it was Field of Dreams, I would say on the, banner of the airplane, Field of Screams, just to get people to this conversation, similar to what we're doing now. Went to court for a year in Illinois and went a few rounds. Peoria, Illinois was an affiliate of the Cardinals, didn't even have netting above the dugout in the 2023 season. And this is 5 years after that ESPN video. Well, maybe it was 4 years at the time. 2019, we call something Exhibit A on the website, which is the ESPN production. A lot of people who see this are like jaws drop, and they should, because they see little children sitting in sections where they have no business being. And then even, years after, there's still no nets above dugouts, let alone past the dugouts where these children were hurt. So that was like low hanging fruit. And we went a few rounds in court. We made the points we needed to make, and then it was time to pull out. We're still in 2025. I'm about to make a bunch of calls to some MLB partner league teams and see if they've ever extended their nets past end of dugouts. But this video is now 6 years running, and clearly, if none of these professional teams have done it up until now, shame on them. We need to see a judge in that city and show them the video from 2019 so they could decide for themselves or for the county if this team is acting responsibly or not. Even extended netting all the way down to the foul pole, in my opinion, is surely an improvement of what it used to be, but is it a solution? And that's what we're trying to do. We're really trying to start a conversation that's dedicated to a solution, and we're gonna address it. And there's a couple other things. We have some news updates. Couple of incidences have occurred where people have been affected by foul balls in the last month. Well, one was from a year ago, but she contacted me and interviewed with us. A woman who got hurt at a Dodger game where the ball clearly went over the net, and it's almost a year to the incident, or about a year. In May of 2025, she's contemplating whether to go for sinus surgery and who's going to pay those bills. And she found us through a network that Brianna knows, and another person that Brendan connected to in Seattle. So coincidentally, Brendan is from Seattle. She was on some chat room and she was talking about her incident of her 18-year-old son that got hit by a foul ball like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and Brendan connected with the mom and already had a conversation with her. And the local news even wanted to interview the 18-year-old. We have a video, but they don't want to go on TV right now. So a lot of the victims, like Irwin and others, people that have been affected or family members, they're very nice. They tell us their story. I'm always on the interview, in this case, on the interviews with Brendan. In this case, Brendan made a connection online, and it just worked out that he interviewed her alone. These people aren't ready to be spokespeople for the campaign, which is fine. At least I am in a position where I can archive everything, and we're producing our first book, which is very exciting, about a little known case that was on ESPN, Major League Game, around 9 years ago. You can see the video of the bat going into the stands and the mother turning, and unfortunately, it was a bat, and unfortunately struck the child in the head. And instead of the professional team stepping up from the day or from the moment it happened, and certainly taking the family to the emergency room, you would think the team doctor would have dropped everything and said, "Come with me. We'll go to the emergency room and watch this all play out together. You will never feel alone." Unfortunately, that's not the way Major League Baseball does it. This family was like most of us, in the middle of the night at an emergency room, and had a head blow to the head, and, years and years and years of litigation. And finally, a lawyer found me and called me, and Brendan ended up doing like 40 or 50 hours worth of work preparing them for trial. The case ended up being settled, but it wasn't a great settlement. There was minimal care for the child for the rest of his life, and no pain and suffering for the family. And why would they have even had to get a lawyer? From the day it happened, you would have thought, of course, this major league team will never ever have another bat fly over the net. We'll be there, for psychological comfort, and make sure that we'll share the network of doctors that we have with this family. Not the case. Not that would have changed the outcome of the blunt or the blow to the head. This child did grow up nonverbal, and unfortunately does have some other issues. I think nonverbal is bad enough, and plaintiff's side said it was because of the bat, and the defendant's side said no. But there was clearly X-rays, and from day one, it clearly shows that the child was hit by a bat. Brianna, how are you?
Doing great, Jordan. Excited to dive into this super important topic today. So, without further ado, I'd love to invite on our guest host for the day. He is a big Giants fan. He's currently living in the San Francisco Bay Area as a retired marketing professional. Welcome, Bernard Gutnick.
Hey, well, thank you very much for allowing me to join your program. And thank you for what you're doing, by the way. I think it's terrific to raise awareness of how you can make any sport safer. And as someone who moved from Canada 30 years ago to California, and have been to the San Francisco Giants probably, I don't know, 50, 100 times. It's part of being an American. I became a citizen 30 years ago, and everyone likes baseball and apple pie, but no one wants games to be unsafe, right? And so what you're doing is really the right thing, to get a mixture of, people being able to go to a game and have a good time, and of course have a safe experience. And clearly what you've done as an advocate for this has made a difference, and hopefully no one gets injured going forward. So like what you're doing.
Well, thanks, Bernard. Great to have you around. And yeah, we're excited for you to lead a discussion with us. And we have 7 years worth of work to incorporate into this conversation, or and take the conversation where you think it needs to go.
Well, terrific. I'm mainly familiar with the San Francisco Giants, now called Oracle Park, of course. It used to be AT&T Park, and so on.
Right.
They've actually done a lot of investments. I've just looked it up. I mean, in
Okay.
2020, they raised the nets to 25 feet, all the way from section 101 to 135, and that's actually all the way from, really, from the first baseline all the way to the third baseline, like pretty much the whole thing. And
Mhm.
I must say, I don't recall ever hearing of an incident in the Oracle Park, of anyone being hurt. But so maybe it's working, or maybe it just is something you don't hear about. But it certainly seems that for people that go to the games, it seems pretty safe, and people feel good, and it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be under control right now. It sure seems.
Well, I think even to this day, no matter what the ballpark is, I think 90% or more of the people always had potentially a false sense of security,
Right.
until, as an outside agency that comes into Oracle or any other place, that says, "Hey, no more surprises. Have a great night. Enjoy." And that would be the end of that. That's never been. You won't get an explanation from Oracle on exactly what the process was and why. I mean, they're not MIT guys, and a committee of architects, engineers, and designers that are studying the data and coming up with renderings? If there are, please tell me, because balls are still making their way over nets and clubbing people, and that's not acceptable. Brianna found 45 incidences from 2025. People have self-reported their black and blues. It's evident that they were clearly hurt and hit. Some of them may have experienced concussions. I don't think any of them lost an eye or worse, but the fact is that we all should want to go down the rabbit hole and ask the question, is it one person at MLB wearing 12 different hats? Or is it a team of architects, engineers, and designers that's been part of the process of extended netting? Now, maybe you've seen a great improvement at Oracle and applaud improvements, but we just want to know it's endorsed by someone other than, the guy wearing 12 hats who's changing the printer and getting lunch for everybody. Maybe it's worthy of everyone else's time, or at least worthy of a representation of architects, engineers, and designers that it could put their stamp of approval and say, "This is why the nets are the way they are." I don't think they'll be able to ever show that, Bernard, and I think
But
we all need to understand the history and where we're at today, and then from there, everyone can then decide where they wanna go with this information.
But you must admit, though, I mean, in the
Yes.
spirit of take me out to the ball game, I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen numerous people with gloves trying to
Yes.
catch a foul ball. It's part of the fun of why
Yes.
to be in the stadium, right? And sure,
Yes.
I mean, even in every sport, there's a danger. I mean, even in hockey, where you
Yes.
go see the Sharks games, it's probably even more dangerous with a hard, rigid puck that could be coming at 100 miles an hour. That could take your head off too. But I
Sure.
mean, haven't you seen fans get excited when someone catches the ball, like the guy with holding the baby with the glove and he catches it like the ultimate
Yes.
dad, or the kid who catches the ball and gives to the girl the ball that he had in
Oh,
his pocket. I
yes.
mean, like, it's just part of the all the like, the audience goes crazy, right? It's part of the excitement
Yes.
of why to be in the
Yes.
stands and have fun. They do kinda raise the awareness that, there are balls that can
Mhm.
fly out, so to be aware of it,
Yes.
and that's not really an excuse to not try to protect people. But I
Right.
mean, should the father or the parent of a 2-month-year-old maybe be a little more careful? Maybe they shouldn't be sitting in the area where a ball could come
Mhm.
by? I mean, maybe not, but
Sure. There's an element to that. As a baseball fan who loves all the tradition, of course, we're looking to give the benefit of the doubt to the wholesome and the apple pie and the expectations of going to a game. I get it. I could have been there too, but I'm now 7 years into this, so I've moved that stuff aside. My detective hat is always on. I am now looking at it as, "Just get the job done, Jordan," and lose your bias of giving the benefit of the doubt to the owners and management when it's clearly presented to you that we've never been told, Bernard, the realities. Now, I love all of the things that you can offer as why baseball can be a great experience and could remain or should be a great experience. You see, but you left out the fact that to keep that maintained, there's gonna be losers every year that are people who will be done with baseball because they may have a life-altering experiences. That's what we meet every single year, and of course, it's less than 1%, but Brianna's going to paint the picture exactly how difficult it's going to be to break down the wholesome and the image that baseball has tried to maintain.
Bernard, you're totally right. It's true that the foul ball experience has been completely romanticized. I mean, but isn't that great marketing? That's what makes the highlight reel. But I'd love to challenge that line of thinking. There are thousands of people that have been injured, many of them serious, by that same foul ball experience. And why, to your point, when the dad catches the ball with the baby and the beer, is everyone cheering and no one going, well, why is that baseball so close to that baby's head? So we've got a lot of programming, whether it's intentional or not, to associate the foul ball experience with a magical, once in a lifetime moment. But for many, it's been the life changing moment, and their lives have never been the same. So I agree with you. There does need to be a balance, and we need to highlight not just the family friendly moments, which do happen, but also the moments that have been life changing for the victims, and get some awareness on this issue so that we create a conversation around this topic. You know, you say, well, why don't they leave the 2 week old at home? Well, why are they broadcasting the smiling family and the fans holding the 2 week old baby that has its headphones on that was just in a broadcast a few weeks ago? You know, there does need to be a balance of the messaging.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, when you do go to the game, I mean, there's more to a baseball game than catching a foul ball, right? This is a really small component of it. And everyone wants a safe experience, of course. And so it really is, there is an opportunity for the managers of the venues to use things like the netting to make the game as safe as it can. Similar to how for hockey they put up netting also, and then big thick glass barriers so you can't do it on the side either. So all the sports seem to have the desire to make it relatively as safe as they can, and it sure seems to be relatively safe. I mean, there's almost 2,500 games per year, and it sounds like there aren't very many incidents taking place. So it sure sounds like there's really action has been taken already. So are we really talking about something that was less of a problem now than it used to be?
Regardless of what it is, it's just the 3 of us talking. Once we get people dedicated to this conversation and say, "Let's go back to 1970 after the 14-year-old boy died, got hit at Dodger Stadium and died a few days later. Was there an opportunity for 45 years to discuss with families that, hey, this is what went down in 1970?" So certainly the winter months of 70 to 71 or the winter months of 1995 to 1996 or the winter months of 2014 to 15. Those are the times to tell everyone this is exactly how many near misses came towards your head. Is it really a good idea? Because one of them are going to directly connect. Aren't you hungry to learn more about just let's go where the conversation goes? Because it's not really us expressing our opinion. It's really us presenting people with here's the information. Are you ready to receive it? Now, you may not be. Certainly the gatekeepers in management, they're not. But I think the majority of the 99 percenters who've never been affected will be like, hey, Jordan, I'm fair. Tell me what I've missed. And then we will. And then we'll demonstrate to you what it was that you may have missed. And would you say, will you have the courage to identify and call a spade a spade? And we haven't met many of those people as of yet. The fact is that you're signing on to be part of this, and most of our 100 recordings, everyone has texted us afterwards. So we're really appreciative that you're exploring this with us, and we really think that's a great beginning. But obviously, the MDs and the lawyers and the PhDs and the forensic psychologists and the actors and models, of course, we want them to get back with us after this experience and give us a sense of, hey, I have another guest you need to meet. Or here's an historian. They just want to meet you. They wrote 4 books on baseball, but now they want to write another one. Ken Burns, the guy who did the baseball series, for example, once he learns about our research, he'll be like, oh, okay, I'll come on as their guest because then maybe he'll think, okay, there may be a series here or another part of that baseball documentary. I think he did 9 innings and then 15 years later, he did another one. I think it was on steroids and things like that. Maybe he'll do another one in another 10 years or 5 years, or he'll meet us and say, wow, that's a big body of work there. So we
Right.
just want the right people who are like, tell me what I missed. Tell me something I don't know. And that's what we want to do. And we're fans. We love it, and I love it too, but we're not gatekeepers, and we're not there to preserve wholesome apple pie, unconditional fun when in reality, there's always been strings and conditions attached to the experience, whether the baby was 2 months old or 4 years old or 2 years old, similar to the children that got slammed in the 2019 video. But we're just trying to make the right sounds here, and it's great that you're part of this with us.
Well, people worry about a lot of things in life, whether you get into a car crash or whether you have termites in the house or you have whatever, right? But I think
Mhm,
the majority of people I've gone to baseball games with, I
mhm.
don't really think they worry too much about being hit by a foul ball. I don't think it even registers as being something that they're concerned with at all. And so maybe it just has been there's been enough protection with netting or otherwise that there's such a few number of incidents that take place, people just
Mhm.
don't really pay much attention to it.
Oh, no, I agree. 99% of the fans, I'll say a little less, the people that have been coming to the games forever have always come and not felt like there were conditions attached to the experience. And it was like, we're just gonna have a great time, and nobody's got any shields or a face mask or anything that like that. Now, Japan, it's a different culture. I'm not sure if you're that familiar with it, but with netting, they've been out front about the issues, and all the risks are broadcasted. All of the risks are broadcasted. They have the nets, I believe they have it higher, further, wider. You're not going to see a real, like we present on the website of Foul Ball Safety Now, like Exhibit A, the 5-minute ESPN video that produced. You're not going to see direct hits to faces of babies. You may see a ball hit somebody. I'm not saying nobody's ever been hurt in Japan, but they have the nets higher, further, wider, I believe. They even have team attendants on every aisle blowing whistles as the balls are coming up above the net. They even had that during COVID, during the Olympics. Nobody was in the seats, but who was working at the ballpark that day? Team attendants, they continued to work even though there was nobody they were blowing whistles for except the empty seats. But they have animation on the scoreboard, even in dark humor, they try to show people, "Hey, it's not a free ride at the game. You could be carted off in an ambulance like this animation is describing,"
Well,
or
let me
yeah,
ask
of
you, I mean,
course.
we've got a audience of people listening probably across the entire country, maybe around the world. Are there certain venues you feel in the United States that are in need of the fans, you know, being advocates for telling the managers of those venues that there needs to be higher nets or greater protection? Are there certain ones that you think are lacking?
Until one is certified as good to go, it's above my pay grade, Bernard, maybe above yours and Brianna's. We're not architects, engineers, and designers who studied the data at that particular ballpark. So when people ask me, "Hey, which one would you rate one over the other?" What would I know? Do I really know? Like, again, I may have said earlier on in the recording, has it been one guy at MLB wearing 12 different hats as opposed to a team of architects, engineers, and designers that have been in place for the last 55 years that pays attention to these issues ongoing? It's more like one guy with 12 hats, and I think that in itself is an insult to the fan. I think the fan should feel disrespected. It's gonna be the fan, Bernard, that you meet that has that part of the less than 1%. They did come to the game, they were part of your group of like, "Let's have the best time ever, guys. No drinking and driving, okay." And other than that, and then after that, we all went off in our own section, and this family got smashed. Maybe they were part of your group in the beginning of the day, whatever it may be, or you actually witnessed it, would have been an eye opener. So many of us have witnessed close calls. We've sat next to a guy or a row behind somebody who's gotten their beer exploded. But nobody ever left, Bernard. Nobody put two and two together that that could have been a face. Nobody ever left. You never saw "We better get the heck out of here, guys." You don't see that reaction when the beer explodes or the popcorn goes pop. Nobody leaves, Bernard. And management's had winter after winter after winter to educate us. And we just want to remind all of us that if you feel like you want to know more, maybe you'll come to a conclusion that business as usual was improper or unsatisfactory. Certainly, that's where I'm at. I can't turn back the clock, Bernard, because I've had my detective's hat on for 7 years. So it's been improper and it's been dark ages. It's not been transparent or upfront. And there will be new victims, and that's all I'm trying to say. Every other week, we may get another call of somebody entering into the less than 1% club, and there's a lot of injuries we won't discover as well.
I think every venue needs help. We can't guarantee your safety at any ballpark or stadium. And knowing what I know, I personally wouldn't take my child to a baseball game because you can't park your car in the parking lot with peace of mind. Balls can smash your windshield. There's people who've been struck in their seats, eyes on the game. The 18-year-old who was struck last month was walking up the aisle, so his back was turned. We know people struck on the concourse or in line for concessions. You're not guaranteed to be protected from a bat or ball anywhere, even if you're sitting behind the nets. And balls and bats are still making their way over the nets in 2026, and baseball isn't liable. Most states recognize the baseball rule. So if God forbid something does happen to you, there's typically little to no legal recourse. I think it's just a matter of them becoming dedicated to fixing the problem because it can be fixed. And then we really can have a magical, beautiful baseball experience for everyone at the ballpark, not just the lucky ones.
I guess, if I was to speculate,
Yes.
the team of the San Francisco Giants or Oracle Park, I would like to think they would say that they would claim they've addressed the problem, that they've already put 25-foot high netting, and there really haven't been hardly any incidents. So we really be discussing this? There's other things that could be done in the ballpark to make things safer, whether it's to make the staircases less likely for someone to fall or other things. But I mean, is it really that much of a problem in the ballpark if it's rarely causing an incident?
Right, but everything you're saying is fair, but you're not including certainty. Why can't we include certainty into the fan experience? And that's what I'm looking for because whether it's Oracle or LA, why can't we walk into a ballpark and if it's a baby, a 2-year-old or a 2-week-old and a mom, Brianna's child is just been is now 2, she should know, like, we're not just talking MLB ballparks, we're paying MLB Giants have 4 affiliates. The Mariners a couple of years ago, they had an affiliate in Modesto, California, Seattle Mariners, and the woman was standing outside the ballpark. So it's not just the 30 MLB ballparks. I've been paying attention to 169 ballparks, and I've been making lots of calls, putting out netting reports and getting calls from attorneys. In the case of Modesto, this was about a year ago in the spring, a lawyer says, "Hey, Jordan, help us out with our case." A woman was struck in the parking lot in the spring of 2023, and they were preparing for the trial for the summer of 2025. Brendan did not do that much work with them. I think we stayed on the phone with the guy for an hour and a half, and that was the last we heard till we found out that the case was settled. And you would have thought if one or more balls are hitting pavement, window, in this case, hitting lady's head, that would have been addressed. And why would this team all of a sudden retreat after this woman was struck in the head? Wouldn't they want to say to this woman, "Ma'am, we're so, so sorry. Walking traffic for the rest of the year will now be detoured. Please come with us. We'll take you to the emergency room in our private vehicle." "Okay, thank you." They had to get a lawyer. Why does this team say baseball rule? Good luck in finding an attorney. Once you get a sense of Bernard, the aftermath of these people and their experiences, it's pretty brutal. It's psychologically brutal, regardless how bad the injury.
Let me throw in another one for you. I mean,
Of
all of
course.
these sporting venues, including hockey and including the Sphere in Las Vegas, these places
Yes.
have extremely steep staircases made out of cement that if you
Mhm.
trip and fall, you're going to crack your head open or break bones or otherwise. It's far more
Right.
dangerous than people
Mhm.
think, right? And I've seen people that have
Mhm.
absolute, have tripped and broken wrists and things and so on. So what does
Sure.
that mean? Are you going to have every ballpark in the country put rubber edging on every single staircase, and they're
Right.
making put rubber on all the metal rails so that that one person out of 50,000 who trips and cracks their head open is
Right.
avoided? I mean, how much of a real problem
I
are we
know.
really trying to solve here? I mean, it doesn't
Well, we
seem
just
like
want to
it's
address the question is, are you up for the foul ball challenge? I think you are, Bernard, and maybe that's the way I can phrase these type of recordings. Bring it on, Jordan. Whatever you have, I'll take the foul ball. ball challenge. Regarding the slip and falls, yeah, of course there's gonna be slip and falls, and people are gonna slip on the beer or the juice or whatever's on the ground, and yeah, you should have, of course, a well-staffed first aid, or some unruly fan is probably reaching for a foul ball and knocks you in the nose
Right.
or whatever. Those things happen. But the question is, Bernard, will the Ken Burns of the world, or potentially you, Bernard, be like, just tell me what I missed over the last number of years since that 14-year-old boy died in 1970. Lay it out. And it could be done in this fashion where we have this Q&A and we go back and forth, or any other ideas. Because if it is presented as a foul ball safety now challenge, Brendan and I have interviewed more than 30 men who lived it. These baseball players are the ones that are hitting the ball. Nobody said they had to hit the ball towards the baby, but they continued to do so. Their union supposedly negotiated several times in collective bargaining to extend nets. Every 4 years, I think they have collective bargaining talks, and I wanna know exactly what MLB Players Union proposed because, how about a non-starter? I'm just as hard on MLB or on MLB Players Union as I would be on MLB, because the Players Union could have said, "Hey, this is above all of our pay grade. There's not enough sophistication that goes into this conversation." And again, Bernard, if you learn with a little investigation, or if an investigative reporter, one of those 5 guys or 20 guys that were asking Manfred questions back in 2019, they should have gone deeper with Manfred and probably learned that there's only been one guy wearing 12 hats at MLB that has the additional responsibility of looking out about netting protocols. And I think the general public gonna be like, that's an embarrassment. But those guys work in this game of baseball and they can't really go deeper. The guy from the New Yorker, the Atlantic, let's say the New York Times Magazine, if they're gonna write a long piece on whatever I'm stimulating them about, they're gonna have to include all the baseball writers, Bernard, that didn't tell the story. They're not investigative reporters, but there's a bunch of media there, and we should all ask them what they've witnessed. And I believe they've witnessed a lot, but they just didn't want to bite the hand that feeds them, kind of thing. They're there to get the quotes. They're not investigative reporters. This is what we do, Bernard. A lot of the things I say over and over again, but it's always great to have these
Well, let me
calls.
tell you what I think what you are doing is what
Go
is
ahead.
valuable. Let me tell you one thing. If you ever open up some software application and it has the software license agreement, click here to read this, and you just dismiss it, right? You don't even read it at all, and you just
Exactly.
assume it's not important. Well, it's really the same thing when you go to a ballpark or a hockey game where they put the sign up that says, please be aware of objects that may fly into the audience as it's a harmful whatever. No one pays attention to it. They're looking at their phones, right? So no, I think what you're doing, and maybe you could do even more of, is to
Sure.
just make people aware that you can be harmed by these balls or otherwise. So just be a little bit more attentive during the game, and if people are, then it might even reduce the probability of people being harmed if they're more consciously aware of it and pay more attention to it.
I definitely think attention, of course, is a good thing, but I also believe that to go the extreme other way, we're not action figures and superheroes. The kids are there to play patty cake. You're not there to defend them because you're not a superhero and you're not an action figure. And the players who are not working on a particular game day, or the retired players sitting there with their families, don't want to sit there with their families. Brendan and I have found that out. And baseball players' families have insider knowledge exactly the safest places to be, but the rest of us may not. Again, it's a matter of, let's address this. If it's one guy wearing 12 hats at netting, or it's somebody doing so, we're responsible for too much because they're not qualified. They're not a team of architects, engineers, and designers, which a billionaire organization should be able to prove that's always been in place. But I think with a little inquiry from some of these sports reporters, they would have found that out, and maybe more news would be exposed in regards to just us going to the game. We need to have known more, and we want to do is present all that may have been missing from your why you had gone to the game. The signs, the gestures. I want people to ask, "Where did this netting come from? When did you d" show us the minutes, exactly why and what. It's not gonna happen, Bernard. These guys aren't gonna open up their legal can of worms, that potentially opens them up for all kinds of inquiry. But I'm going to, and that's what we do. We wanna remain pleasant at Foul Ball Safety Now, and we're excited if I get somebody else excited and who may be a doctor or a lawyer or somebody who's an influencer who feels like, "Hey, you gotta meet my 10 buddies, alright? And you gotta come to California." There's a woman in LA, she was struck by a baseball a year ago, and she went to her high school reunion with a big bruise, and we spoke, and I said, "Hey, how about we rent a room? I'll rent the room, and you bring some of your buddies from high school," because they saw her, Bernard, a month later, and she was big time black and blue. So she's talking to me. So we'll see. Maybe something like that'll happen, and one of those people in the room will decide to address what's happening with me at Dodger Stadium. But a lot of the
Right.
people that have been victims, they really just give us one interview and then we're done. And it's great if they want to be a spokesperson or say, "Hey, I'm an inquiring mind and I want to know." It's not much. I believe our book is going to be very powerful because it's gonna be about the little known child that was struck by the bat, where we have the video, and once again, the words will be jumping off the pages because Brendan and I are the writers. We will control the narrative. We will make sure that final edit will show enough compelling reason to say, "Wait, what? This really happened, and this is the way the aftermath was?" Mhm. And I'm like, "Yeah." So we want people to scratch their head with us and even scratch it harder because they're in a position maybe to be a bigger, more powerful influencer than I am. Brianna and
Right.
Brendan could be doing other things with their part-time, but they're getting paid because they wanna be part of this with me, and I appreciate that, but I don't have 3 or 4 people like Brendan and Brianna, but it would be great if I did. It may be the next guest that turns me on to a conference, and let's just go where the conversation goes, and that's what we do, and we'll give you the latest news usually at the end of the opening, and
Well, I
that's
appreciate what you're doing. I mean, I'm going to
Thank
3
you.
games. I'm going to 3 games, May 24th with the Grogu thing giveaway and the Snoopy
Uh-huh.
giveaway and the Heritage Nights and
Uh-huh.
so on. But
What's the
I
first
must
one? What was
say,
the first one?
the the upcoming Grogu movie, the, Baby Yoda, from The
Oh, okay.
Mandalorian. We're having a
Oh,
little giveaway thing, and I love
uh-huh,
that's kind of the fun too, but
uh-huh,
I must tell you though, I mean, I've gone to probably, I don't know, hundreds of games and for
uh,
years, and I don't really think it's ever come up in conversation from
I hear
anyone I've
you.
ever talked to that they're even at all concerned about
I
being hit
know.
by a foul ball ever. I mean, I don't think it
I
even
know.
comes up.
It doesn't come up because on social media, a broken bat goes over the net in Seattle at a playoff game. The whole country saw it together. At first, you didn't know, Bernard, exactly where the broken bat had gone. Jorge Polanco hits 2 home runs, having the game of his life for the Mariners. And then one of his next at bats, his bat breaks. And nobody, for I think an infield hit, nobody knows where the broken bat had gone. 2 minutes later, a few minutes later, they go to commercial and they show the bat coming over the net like a boomerang that could spear your heart and neck. And not anyone equated that incident with danger or even Mr. Mayhem, the Allstate guy. You see him at the park throwing the bat over the fence into the window. Nobody tied in that either. So it's like it all blends in with the wholesome and the apple pie experience. Nobody associated that bat or that insurance company commercial with, "Hey, this ain't a this picture does not look right." So you're right. Everyone is still drinking the Kool-Aid. The metaphor
Well,
is
I
wildly 150 years old and going strong. Yeah,
I guess if you just look at the math though, there's
yeah,
2,400 games a year, and there's
yeah.
probably 10,000 people plus in those stands. So you're talking of the millions of
I
people
know,
that
less
go
than
to
1
a
much
game.
less than
You're
1%.
trying to protect the remaining point zero zero zero
I
one
know.
percent of the other
I know,
people
but
that
there's new entries every year, and if it happens to someone this year, Bernard, and I introduce you to them, you're not gonna have a lot to say, and it's unfortunate because you're gonna be like, "Wow, I'm so intoxicated by the game," and you admittedly are, which is great, and I was too, but I've kept my detective hat because every year it could be another week from now. I'm going to get another call. Somebody's going to have a serious injury. It's not a matter of if the next one enters into the less than thousands that have been injured into the lifetime life altering injury club. It's a matter of when.
But it's like saying, dogs bite kids too, right? Even golden
Mhm.
retrievers, friendliest dog in the world,
Yeah.
bite people. So maybe we shouldn't have people have dogs at all. And maybe when you go to someone's house, dogs shouldn't be allowed to roam in the house. They should be put
Yeah.
in a kennel only. Or maybe
Mhm.
kids should wear protective gear or have nets around the house so that a
Mhm.
dog can't bite them by chance. So that one out of that million who get damaged where they need to go to the ER, you're protecting such a small number of people in society. Maybe the work's been done with the ballparks. I mean, they're already at 99.999. I mean,
Well,
have they done enough?
they've always been there, and maybe it's getting a slightly less with more nets, so, of course, the improvements are good because if you have more nets, you'll have less chances. I see that, that's black and white, everyone sees that, but who's running the show? Don't we deserve to know that it's been one guy with 12 hats as opposed to a team of architects, engineers, and designers? Give me that, Bernard. And then if
No,
we find out something that it's been more like one guy wearing 12 hats, isn't it worthy of another conversation and maybe then another? And just let's get to the bottom of it. And then maybe we will eventually run out the clock and arrive at a place of a solution. What a concept where Brianna could go in and park the car and not worry about one or many balls within 3 or 4 hours that hit the pavement of 169 places like Modesto or inside where she can go in and sit down and have a snack and go around the ballpark. But she was given a plan. This is what you do. And if you're a certain age, hey, you can sit here and you could take the risk. Or if you're a bunch of adults that don't want to be concerned about it, you've been told something a little bit extra, not just in micro print, not just on the back of the e-ticket, certain things that would have been common courtesy. Common courtesy isn't micro print that says where we waive you lose your right to legal recourse or good luck in finding an attorney because of the baseball rule. That's what micro print was on the back of the ticket, and now on the e-ticket we weren't being given the common courtesy. I want people who have their detective hat to highlight in a 1 or 2 pager that, why that's the case. If I get more people to do that, we may look at the historical context differently. I just want people to have open mind, and until there's no more calls coming in, Bernard, I guess I gotta keep going.
what you're
Yeah.
doing really is a good
Yeah.
effort. I mean, let me
Thank
put
you.
this in perspective. The San
Sure.
Jose Giants, which is the smaller ballpark in San Jose, when there's a lot of foul balls that actually go over the seated area into where the cars are parked, and they play like the noise of a car windshield being smashed, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
they're kind of mocking, they're trying to make light out of it or fun out of it, but that same ball that could theoretically smash a windshield of a car could crack someone's head open too.
I
So
know.
they're really kind of making fun of the fact that this whole thing takes place. So they clearly don't really care.
There
So I
are
mean,
solutions, Bernard, and it may cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in some places. Maybe it'll cost 50,000 in others, but shouldn't we get to it? We wanna come to, fancy term, ecosystem, inside and outside, everyone's expectations are met, thrill seekers' expectations are met, uh, people that aren't seekers but still wanna take a line drive to the neck if they think that it's no big deal. Then take one to the neck. But just let's describe exactly what the experience is going to be like other than microprint. You sign some waiver, whatever. Running with bulls in Spain, you have to be 18. You can't bring the kids. So, that video clearly demonstrates that no professional city should allow, I believe, no human being, let alone little kid, to sit in those sections. But this is the way it's been run. thousands of people. It could be tens of thousands of people. I like to talk on conservative numbers. I don't want to inflate anything. So I'll keep the thousands based on some reports that have come out from NBC Investigations over the year and ESPN when they produced this, a few other publications. But Brendan and I and Brianna have discovered a lot of our own just from newspaper clippings, 45 children since 2008 through newspaper clippings. And, just people that we've met along the way, a 9-year-old, a pediatrician who I had a post on a platform called Indeed, where I offered pediatricians hundreds of dollars an hour to organize conferences with other pediatricians. And I probably ended up speaking to 35 of them on the phone, ended up having 2 small conferences. They got paid an hour or 2 to get their buddies and their colleagues together, and another hour for being part of it.
Well,
Or
Jordan,
to
before
send.
we close,
Yeah,
I've got some
yes.
really good news for you.
All right.
I think I've got the answer for you.
Uh-oh.
You and I and Brianna, we go to MIT and we have an engineer invent what I call the Brianna net. It's a drone that flies in the ballpark. You get one for every section, and it goes above the fans. And when the ball is going to go for a fall ball, the little Brianna net drone goes out with its glove and catches the ball. It could work.
Absolutely.
I
The
gotta say,
Brianna
I
net.
love the name. It's
Absolutely. You know what? There's also fishing net at $4 a yard, and I think that's more realistic. But, either way, we've been meeting people. The pediatrician actually, one of those 35 people, introduced me to a 9-year-old who was unconscious for 4 or 5 days. When you meet these people, and then they try to bring the family back with tickets. And now this woman who's now in her 30s is going through gift remorse because she thinks her parents may have not handled it properly because,
Right.
she was having a good time going back to the games while she was recovering, but she realizes maybe that wasn't the right move. Once you're in the weeds with us, Bernard, you're gonna be open to hearing new thoughts and new ideas, and I think that's what we're doing. This is a great opportunity. We have all of our preconceived, "This is the best thing ever." I certainly did. I think we all have that. The stats, of course, less than 1%, a lot less than 1% of people that will ever be affected by this, but there's new entries maybe every other day, and if I knew them all, they would know me, but it's not cool. And head injuries and serious injuries and the death is upon us. That's unfortunate. It's reality. There could be another death any moment, but we're positive and we're healthy and we're energy.
Yeah, Bernard, as a retired marketing professional, what do you feel baseball is selling to its fans? And do you think it's representing the experience accurately?
Well, it's the excitement of being in the place where the action happens. It's not watching on TV with the popcorn. It's going to the game and getting the hot dog and the beer and watching it in the sun and just having a great time. And everyone who goes to an MLB game knows that that's what it's all about, is having a fantastic time, whether it's a hockey game or a baseball game or otherwise. There's nothing better in America than going to a live sporting event and having fun with your family and friends.
We all want that experience. Unfortunately, we realize that some of those people's experiences may have been tainted, but most people will never be affected by it and will remain having great experiences. We hope they find us and are open to learning about what we've come across, and they may look at it another way or a different way. And we'll do it again soon, everyone. Thanks to our guests, Bernard and Brianna. See you again next time.